A leap of faith. What if I fall? Oh, but what if I fly? Those words resonated with me for weeks on end as I considered taking my biggest leap of faith. Now, I want you to take 15 seconds out of your time, 15 seconds to think about a time where you've had to take your biggest or smallest leap of faith. Go. Now, as you think about that, I'm sure you'll agree with me that a leap of faith always comes with a fear, a big element of fear. And oftentimes that's a fear of the unknown, a fear of something that is yet to take place, hasn't happened yet. And for me, that was one of the hardest decisions I was fighting with. Now, I'll get back to what that leap of faith was shortly. But firstly, I'd like to tell you a bit about my journey and what's led me to really celebrate community, unity, and us. Now, if I want to take it right back to my childhood, at the age of 14, I was that typical teenager at home in the school holidays, playing on his computer, mum working as a full-time nurse, and I've got nothing else to do. But something popped up in my brain, and I thought to myself, do you know what? I want to do something a bit more fulfilling. So as I got the back door key and headed out into the back garden, I went into the garden shed, and I reached for the mop bucket, a big sponge, and the garden hose. Now, I found an old cardboard box and I decided to write on it, car wash, £3.50. Now, lo and behold, I ended up on a main road, which is where we lived. So you can imagine 14-year-old me standing there with these cars zooming past. Now, it was after a few cars had went past that I started to get a bit of interest. And one car turned up, then another. Now, let's go forward a bit, a few hours. Mum's about to turn up from work. Our drive is full of 5 different cars. Mum can't get on her drive. Now, Mum could have been super mad at me and said, "Excuse me," or in a Caribbean accent, "Oh, what is?" But she decided to celebrate what I was doing, community. Now, at 14, that was something that I found fun. Now, the picture you see before you is me at 16, setting up my own street dance class, £22.50 at King's Standing Leisure Centre. And slowly but surely, I started to realise now that I'm actually celebrating community. As these parents turned up to drop their children off in my care, I realised that I had some responsibility to take on. Now, my journey has taught me so many lessons in life, and I'm still going and I'm still learning. But one thing I've learned from my childhood is, if you have a dream, chase it. If you have a leap of faith to take and you have a decision to make, take it. Yes, what if you fall? But what if you fly? Now, taking the leap can be the most hardest thing to do. And if I was to take you back now into my journey into education, because this is what I actually do for a living, I work in education. Now, I remember my first ever time that I was employed in a school. And I was employed as a one-to-one mentor to work with a young boy who was dealing with some very serious issues at home and in school. And as I knocked on the door in year 3, I said, "Miss, I'm here to work with a young boy. I'm his one-to-one." She said, "He's over there." So as I looked across the classroom, I couldn't see this boy in the direction that she was pointing in. And some of the children who were sitting on one of the tables went. So as I looked under the table, this young boy was sitting there with his face in his hands. So I simply walked over and I sat under the table with this young boy. I said to him, "How are you?" No response. "My name's Anthony. It's really nice to meet you. Are you okay?" No answer. But I noticed on his trainers that he was wearing, on the feet of his trainers, he had a picture of a BMX bike. And I just said to him, "Do you like BMXs?" And slowly I saw a few eyes peek behind those hands. I love BMXs. Do you know what? When I was young, I used to have a BMX, and I remember the stunt pegs on the back of the wheels, and I used to be able to give my friends a backy. He removed his hands from his face. This young boy turned out to be one of my best friends. He's now 19 years old, and I still keep in touch with him up to this day. But what that taught me is that honing in on the interests of people and actually taking a real interest in people rather than ignoring the important things is something that can actually build a relationship, a long-lasting relationship with somebody. Not only can it build relationships, but it can also break down barriers. This young boy suffered with very low self-esteem. He didn't believe in himself. He had no friends. Now, over the years of working at that school, I started to see this young boy interact with people. He made friends in his later years. He smiled, and his parents could see that, and to see the joy on their faces inspired me even more. This is where I knew my place was, in education to inspire. You see on the picture, this is me at my first ever school that I introduced when I set my own organisation up called Standing Ovation. Now, Standing Ovation work with a number of schools across the UK. And what really catches my attention is each school I go into, I see different faces, I see different skin colours, I hear about different cultures, I hear about different religions. And what really sticks with me is the fact that children, they don't see colour. Children don't see through colour. They see a face and they accept it. And I thought to myself, why can't we all be like that? Because if the world could be like that, and if we all as individuals could practice that, this world would be such an amazing place. Still, I go on my journey through to education, supporting communities. Now, some of the things that I've realised through my profession and inspiring people through creative art is some of the areas that we can really hone in on. Well-being and health, okay? A positive view of self. Now, even as adults, we suffer with low self-esteem, but how important is it to have a positive view of yourself? On a Monday morning when you wake up and that alarm bell goes off and the snooze button gets hit maybe 10 times, I'm sure I've done it about 10 times, and it's that feeling of getting out of bed. But have a positive view of yourself in the morning. Put some music on, sing, dance, try your best to feel good in yourself. Development and progress, creative learning and self-expression. The joy on my face when I visit different schools that we work with and I see our choirs standing there, and the young boy or the young girl that I know to be the one who's very low in confidence is at the front. They're showing hand gestures, they're smiling. Absolutely amazing. You can't put a price on something like that. Community engagement, feeling positive about being around others. Seeing you all here today has made me smile. I don't know every single one of you here, but one thing I know that we have in common is we're all here to support. Everybody here is here to support one another. Very interesting to see that sometimes when I'm doing what I call an inspiration assembly, I sometimes call the teachers up, because as adults, like I said before, we struggle, we have leaps of faith that we have not yet took on. And to see the kids' faces when they actually see an adult, their teacher who they look up to, leading by example and taking the opportunity to show those children that anything is possible, I've learnt is an amazing thing too. So whatever we do, and it doesn't matter the sector of work that you work in, it doesn't matter what kind of education you're studying at the moment, just do your best. And that's all you can ask of yourself. Sometimes the person who can stop you from moving forward, the only person that can stop you from moving forward and progressing is yourself. And I realized that, hence why I decided I was going to take that leap of faith. And the thought of falling was always a possibility. That even now, I'm 4 years into my organization, and still the thought of falling is always there. But I let the thought of flying override it. Have a look at this. Potential. The amount of potential that you tap into determines the amount of action that you are going to take. The amount of action you take determines the results that you're going to get. The results you get determine the belief in yourself. And finally, the amount of belief you have determines the amount of potential you can tap into. It all starts here. Have that self-belief. Recognize your potential. Now, very quickly, I'd just like everybody just to hold your hands out for a moment. Everybody. Now, everybody has their own individual pot of treasure. Your own individual pot of treasure. Now, if I was to ask you what is here, what do you see when you look into your pot of treasure? You might say to me, well, I think it's my hands. I just see the palm of my hands. But I want you to look deeper. Now, in the palm of your hands holds the strong values that you have taken on throughout your life. The values that you've got to celebrate and to show other people what you are made of and how you can inspire them. That might be empathy. A lot of people are empathetic. They put themselves in other people's shoes and they care for them. They can sense it. They have this sixth sense that somebody is sad. It could be love. I've met so many people who've just got an exuberant amount of love to give and spread. And you probably know somebody like that. Kindness. You might be that person that's happy to give your half of your Snicker bar away. And I love Snickers, so, that would be tough for me. Okay? But I want you to really look deep into your pot of treasure. And don't forget that every time you're doubting yourself in the morning or whenever, at whatever time of day, nighttime, look into your pot of treasure and remind yourself of the amazing person that you are. Diversity at its finest. I mentioned going into the schools and seeing different faces, different skin colours, different cultures, and the joy I get from teaching these children and to really celebrate community. Because what we're essentially doing when we're teaching these children is we're actually teaching them to become leaders, young leaders who are going to grow up to be standing here maybe on a stage like this, talking to an audience like you. Celebrate diversity. I always tell the children that I work with, do you speak to your friends and ask them about about their family and their culture? And they say, no, sir, I don't. Why would I do that? And I say, well, you need to find out about different cultures so you can understand about another culture, another religion. And they get it. So you watch them in the playground and they start to talk and interact with each other. And this is where relationships are built. Community, unity, us. When is the last time that you took a moment out to celebrate what you are doing? Big or small. Small achievements count too. Celebrate it. I was very guilty of that myself, and having gone 2 years into the project, somebody said, Anthony, have you taken some time out to actually look at what you've achieved and how many schools you've reached and how many children in all of these assemblies you've inspired, you and your team? And I said, to be honest, no, I haven't really. And I said, well, you need to. Sit down and just take a moment and think. And it's only then when I did that I realized how much I had accomplished. I started to celebrate it. Don't ever doubt your ability. Don't ever doubt your ability to inspire and to create change. Oftentimes, you've probably not even realized that you're actually doing it. It's always the other people who realize it. But take some time to celebrate what you are doing. Thank you.